Have you ever looked at Amazon and just wondered why some people seem to, I don't know, just get it? They launch products, they succeed seemingly overnight, while others, well, they put in the time, they invest the money, and their products just end up collecting digital dust.
Yeah, it's a really common frustration, isn't it? You see the success stories, but the path there feels murky.
Exactly. And if that sounds familiar to you, well, you're definitely in the right place today. We're going to try and peel back some of those layers.
Mm.
Our goal is really to break down selling through Amazon FBA, that's fulfillment by Amazon, and give you a clearer path. Cut through the noise, avoid those common mistakes that cost people so much.
Yeah, those pitfalls can be really expensive, especially early on.
Totally. And our mission here isn't about, guessing what might sell. We want to explore how to strategically use Amazon FBA by figuring out what people are already looking for.
Right, what they're actively searching for and actually buying.
Yes, because understanding that is, I think, the absolute key to not making those beginner mistakes that can just stop you in your tracks before you even really start.
That's precisely it. And, like jumping into any new field, you've got to learn the language first, right?
Mm-hmm.
These terms we're going to talk about, they're not just buzzwords. They're fundamental concepts. They dictate how products get found, how they get sold, how they actually reach the customer.
So like the basic building blocks.
Exactly. They're the building blocks. If you don't grasp them, it's like trying to read a map where you don't know what any of the symbols mean. You're just lost.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's start with the big one then, the one that gives the whole thing its name. FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon. People hear the term, sure, but beyond Amazon just handling the shipping, what are the maybe less obvious strategic points, the advantages, maybe even the hidden costs?
That's a great question because FBA is really more than just convenience, though that's a big part of it. So at its core, yeah, FBA means you store your products in Amazon's warehouses, their fulfillment centers.
Which are huge, right?
Oh, massive.
Yeah.
All over the place. And the real hands-off magic happens when someone clicks buy. Amazon then takes over completely. They find your product on the shelf, they package it up, ship it out, handle customer service for that order.
Even returns.
Even returns. So for you as a seller, that's huge. No need for your own warehouse space, no dealing with postage rates, no answering customer emails at midnight about where their package is.
That sounds like a massive weight off.
It really is. And strategically, there are big advantages. First, FBA products usually get that Prime badge, right? Free, fast shipping. Millions of customers filter just for Prime. So that boosts your visibility, boosts your conversion rate enormously.
Okay, yeah. Prime eligibility is key.
Definitely. And second, customers just trust Amazon's shipping. They know it'll arrive, it'll be packaged well. That trust transfers to your product, makes them more likely to buy from you, a seller they might not know. So yes, it's like having Amazon as your personal warehouse and shipper.
Doing all the heavy lifting.
Exactly. But the real strategic edge is the credibility and the reach it gives you.
Okay, but you mentioned hidden costs. FBA isn't free, I assume.
Not at all. And understanding the fees is absolutely critical.
Mm-hmm.
This is where people get tripped up on profitability. There are a few main types. You've got fulfillment fees, sometimes called pick and pack fees. That's per item sold, covers the whole process from shelf to doorstep. And these fees vary a lot based on the size and weight of your product.
So bigger, heavier items cost more to ship via FBA.
Significantly more. You have to calculate that precisely. Then there are monthly storage fees. Amazon charges you for the space your inventory takes up in their warehouse, usually calculated per cubic foot.
And that changes.
Yeah, it can vary by month. It's often higher during the peak season, like October, November, December, Q4. So managing your inventory levels is key. You don't want stuff sitting there too long, especially because then you get hit with long-term storage fees.
Oh, okay, so if it doesn't sell.
Exactly. If it sits for too long, often like over 6 months or a year, Amazon charges extra, sometimes quite a lot extra, to incentivize you to clear it out. It's a big cost trap for slow-moving products.
Right, and anything else.
And the big one, the referral fee. That's Amazon's commission on the sale. It's usually a percentage of your selling price, typically somewhere between, say, 8% and 15%, depending on the product category.
Wow, okay, so you really need to factor all of those in.
Absolutely. Ignoring any of them is like, well, like you said, building without a foundation. It just won't hold up financially.
Okay, FBA, powerful, but watch the costs. Got it. So that covers the physical side. But how do people find your product in the first place? In that giant Amazon catalog, I hear search term used a lot. What is that exactly?
Yeah, search term is fundamental. It's literally the exact words or phrase a buyer types into the Amazon search bar when they're looking for something.
Okay, simple enough.
Simple, but powerful because it reflects exactly what the customer's thinking, their intent. Someone typing coffee maker is just browsing, generally speaking.
That's right. Very broad.
But if they type single-serve pod coffee maker with milk frother, well, that's incredibly specific. They know exactly what they want.
But that tells you a lot more.
A ton more. Understanding those search terms is how you match your product to what people are actually looking for. It guides your product title, the keywords you use in your listing description, even the features you emphasize in your bullet points and images.
So if you get the search terms wrong...
You're basically invisible. People searching for your type of product just won't see it.
Okay, that makes sense. Search terms explores customer intent. Now, I also hear index keywords mentioned, often kind of alongside search terms. How do those relate? Why are they important?
Right, they're closely related but distinct. Index keywords are the search terms that Amazon's algorithm has associated with your product. When you list something, Amazon doesn't just show it for your exact title. Its algorithm scans your listing, looks at your sales, customer behavior, and decides, okay, this product is relevant for these search terms.
So Amazon decides what you're indexed for.
Largely, yes. It indexes your product for various terms it thinks are relevant. So if a customer searches for one of those index keywords, your product has a chance to show up in the results.
Okay. And does that change?
Yes. And this is the key part. A product usually gets indexed for more and more keywords over time, especially as it gets sales, gets good reviews.
So success breeds more visibility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
More index keywords mean more ways people can find you, which leads to more potential sales. Think of it like a library catalog.
Okay.
The more subjects or keywords your product is listed under in the catalog, the more likely someone browsing the library or Amazon will stumble upon it.
I like that analogy. Makes sense.
But it's important to remember, for a new seller, getting lots of indexed keywords is something you earn over time with sales and performance. It's not something you can just stuff into your listing on day one and expect it to work perfectly. It follows success. It doesn't guarantee it initially.
Right. It's a result, not just a strategy. Okay. And speaking of identifying things, I see a sign everywhere. Is that like a SKU or a barcode? What is it? And how do sellers use it?
Yeah, it's very much a unique identifier. ASN stands for Amazon Standard Identification Number. It's a unique 10-character code. It's alphanumeric, so letters and numbers that Amazon assigns to every single product in its catalog.
Every single one.
Every single one. You can usually find it pretty easily. It's often right in the web address, the URL for the product page. You'll see that 10-character code there. Or it's listed down in the product details section on the page itself.
Okay, so it's just an ID number.
Well, think of it like a social security number, but for products on Amazon. Unique to each item keeps everything organized for Amazon's massive inventory system.
Right.
But for a smart seller, the AGA sign is more than just an ID. It's actually a key. You can use specialized software tools to do what's called a reverse ASN lookup.
Reverse A sign, what does that do?
You plug in a competitor's AS, and these tools can often pull up data like which keywords they're ranking for, maybe estimate their sales volume, sometimes even give clues about where they source from. It turns that simple ID into a window into your competitor's strategy.
Wow, okay, so it's a competitive intelligence tool, essentially.
Oh, exactly. Invaluable for research.
Fascinating. So ASN is the key. And when we're digging into that data, understanding how many people are searching, that brings us to search volume, right?
Right.
What is that, and is there a danger in just chasing the biggest numbers?
Yeah, search volume is simply the number of times a specific search term gets typed into Amazon's search bar over a given period, usually measured monthly.
And we need tools for this, you said.
Oh, absolutely. You can't just guess this data. You need specialized seller tools, often paid ones, to get reliable search volume numbers. And yes, high search volume definitely shows strong customer demand. Lots of people are looking for that thing.
So high volume is good opportunity.
Well, that's the hidden trap, especially for new sellers. High volume almost always means incredibly high competition.
Right. Everyone wants a piece of that pie.
Exactly. Think about trying to rank for a super broad term like headphones or yoga mat. There might be millions of searches, but there are also thousands, maybe tens of thousands of products competing for those searches. As a new seller with no sales history, no reviews, trying to compete there is like, well, bringing a spoon to a knife fight, like you said earlier. You'll just get lost.
So what's the smarter approach?
The real goal is finding terms with enough search volume to build a viable business. You need some demand, obviously, but where the competition is manageable. That's the sweet spot. You want enough demand, but not so much that you're instantly drowned out by massive established brands. Volume without a realistic chance to compete is just a mirage.
Find the viable sweet spot. Okay, that's key. So once we find that potential spot, where do we manage all this? Listings, inventory, ads, that's Seller Central, right? Tell us about that.
Yep, Seller Central is exactly what it sounds like. It's your command center, your control panel, your dashboard for everything related to your Amazon selling business.
Everything happens there.
Pretty much everything. You create and edit your product listings there. You track your inventory levels, see how much stock you have in Amazon's warehouses. You adjust your pricing. You set up and monitor your advertising campaigns, your PPC ads. And, of course, you watch your sales performance, run reports, see your analytics.
So it really is mission control.
Absolutely. It's where you steer the ship. You communicate with Amazon seller support through it. You monitor your account health metrics. You access all the business reports you need to make informed decisions. It's the central hub.
Got it. And what about private label? That sounds like creating your own brand, but on Amazon. Is that the idea?
That's exactly it. Private label is a really popular model. It's where you find a generic product, often sourced from a manufacturer overseas, like in China, and then you sell it under your own brand name.
So you put your own logo on it.
Yeah, but it's more than just slapping a logo on. It's about developing your own brand identity, maybe designing unique packaging, writing your own product description, creating your own photos, really differentiating it.
And what's the advantage of that over just, say, reselling someone else's brand?
The big advantage is differentiation and control. You're not just selling the same generic widget as 10 other sellers. You can build a unique value proposition. And you have complete control over your Amazon listing, the title, the bullet points, the images, the price, the whole customer experience presented on that page.
So like your water bottle example earlier, HydroFlow.
Exactly. Instead of just selling a water bottle, you create the HydroFlow brand, maybe market it specifically for hikers, design cool packaging. It lets you build brand equity, hopefully customer loyalty, and potentially achieve better profit margins because you're not in a direct price war on an identical generic item. You're building an asset, not just making a sale.
Building an asset. I like that. Okay, last key term for this section, the buy box. We all see it, that button to add to cart. Why is it so crucial for sellers? And how does Amazon decide who gets it?
The buy box.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that main section on the product page with the add to cart or buy now button. And winning it is absolutely vital.
Really? Why so critical?
Because the vast majority of sales on Amazon happen through that buy box.
Yeah.
Estimates are usually over 80%, maybe even higher on mobile. If your offer isn't the one featured in the buy box when customer lands on the page, your chances of getting the sale plummet. Most customers just click that main button. They don't dig through the list of other sellers.
Wow, 80% or more. Okay.
So think of it like the prime checkout lane at the supermarket. Everyone wants to be there. Amazon's algorithm decides who gets that spot based on what offers the best value and experience for the customer.
And what factors go into that decision?
It's a complex algorithm, but the key factors are generally the product price, including shipping, whether the item is in stock, you have to have inventory, your seller performance metrics, things like your shipping speed, how well you handle customer service, your order defect rate.
Your track record, basically.
Exactly. And a huge factor is whether you're using FBA. Using Fulfillment by Amazon gives you a significant advantage in winning the buy box because Amazon trusts its own fulfillment process. For new sellers, using FBA is often the quickest way to become buy box eligible and start getting those sales.
Okay, so FDA helps with the buy box too. Makes sense.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground just on the terminology. It's really clear that knowing this language isn't just vocabulary, it's understanding the whole system.
Definitely. You need the map before you start the journey.
Right. And speaking of the journey, now we get to the really critical part, maybe the most important quest, finding the product itself. Product research. This feels like where things either take off or completely crash and burn for sellers, doesn't it? Oh, absolutely. This is the make or break stage for probably 90% of aspiring sellers. The common mistake is people think, okay, what cool product idea do I have? And then they try to force it onto the market.
Yeah, trying to invent demand.
Exactly. But the approach we recommend, often called the reverse method, flips that completely. It's not about your idea. It's about finding out what people are already searching for and buying consistently on Amazon.
So tapping into existing demand, not creating it.
Precisely. It minimizes your risk dramatically because you know people want this type of thing. You're not guessing. It's like instead of trying to invent a whole new dish for your restaurant menu, you look at what's already selling like crazy at other popular places.
And then figure out how to make a better version or serve a specific part of that existing demand.
Exactly. Find your angle within what's already proven.
Okay, I like that. Less risky. So how do we actually do this reverse method? What are the steps?
All right, let's break it down. Step 1. Identify a reference product. You start by going to Amazon itself, specifically the bestsellers section. Pick a broad category you're interested in, maybe something you know a little bit about.
Okay, browse the bestsellers.
And within that list, you're looking for a product, not necessarily the #1 bestseller, but one that has a really high number of reviews. Hundreds, ideally thousands.
Why lots of reviews?
Because a high review count usually means that product has been selling well for a long time. It's established. And crucially, over that time, it has accumulated a ton of indexed keywords in Amazon's system. It's a rich source of data about what search terms actually lead to sales in that niche. It's like finding an old treasure map marked with all the paths customers took to find it.
Ah, okay. So the history tells us what worked. We find a veteran product. Then what? It's AS sign, right? How do we get that?
Yep. Step 2 is grabbing the AS sign. And it's super simple. Just go to that products page. Like we discussed, the A sign, the 10-character code is usually right in the URL, the web address.
Or down in the product details.
Exactly. Just copy it. That's it for step 2. Quick, but essential.
Okay, copied the AS sign. Step 3, this is where the tools come in.
This is where the magic happens with the specialized software. Tools like Helium 10, Jungle Scout, there are others too. You take that AS sign you copied and you paste it into their keyword research tool. Often it's called something like Cerebro in Helium 10, which means brain.
Clever.
Yeah, because what it does is amazing. It basically interrogates Amazon's data for that specific ASI and pulls out all the search terms that product is currently indexed for.
All of them. Wow.
All the ones the tool can find. It gives you this big raw list of keywords and phrases that actual Amazon customers have used to find and likely buy that successful product. It's direct insight into customer search behavior in that niche. You couldn't possibly gather this manually.
That sounds like the gold mine you mentioned. Okay, so now we have this potentially huge list of search terms from the tool. What's step 4? How do we sift through it? What are we looking for?
Right, now we filter. This is where you separate the signal from the noise. First, you'll want to sort that list of keywords by search volume, usually highest to lowest. Get a feel for what's most popular.
Okay.
But then, critically, you need to discard the really generic, high-volume, high-competition terms. Things like just water bottle, or T-shirt, or shower curtain.
The ones we talked about earlier being too broad.
Exactly. Trying to compete on those as a new seller is usually a recipe for failure. You'll just get buried by established players with huge budgets and thousands of reviews.
So ignore the super high-volume generic stuff. What do we look for?
You focus on the more specific terms, the ones that target a clear, defined niche. Instead of shower curtain, maybe you find extra long fabric shower curtain gray. Or instead of bath mat, you find round microfiber non-slip bath mat blue.
Much more specific.
Much more. That specificity signals clearer buyer intent. Someone searching for that knows exactly what they need. And, importantly, these more specific, long-tail keywords usually have significantly less competition.
Easier to stand out.
Infinitely easier. It's much better to rank well and sell consistently for a very specific term with decent volume than to be on page 20 for a generic term with massive volume. You're not looking for just food. You're looking for that gluten-free, organic chocolate chip cookie dough. That's where the opportunity lies for a new seller dominating a micro niche.
Find that specific cookie dough. Got it. Okay, so finding specific terms with a decent volume is the goal, but you said that's just the start. We need to validate the market.
Exactly. Finding the term is step 1 of validation. Step 2 is making sure the market for products ranking for that term is actually healthy and, crucially, accessible for a new seller. Just because people search for it doesn't mean you can actually succeed selling it.
So we need to look at the products that show up on page 1 for that specific search term.
Precisely. You need to analyze that first page of search results for your chosen specific keyword. And there are 3 key criteria we look for to validate the niche.
Okay, what's the first one?
Criterion 1 is total revenue. You need to check the combined estimated monthly revenue of all the main sellers appearing on that first page for your specific search term. Using your software tools, you should look for a total market revenue exceeding, say, $900,000 per month.
$900,000. Why that number? That sounds huge.
It does, but it indicates strong, consistent demand. It means the overall pie is large enough that even if you come in as a new player and capture just a small slice, it can still be a viable business. If the total market is only making maybe $100K a month combined, There might not be enough room for a new competitor to thrive without a major fight. You want proof the market can support multiple successful sellers.
Okay, so big enough pie. What's criterion two?
Criterion 2 is search term growth. You need to use your tools to look at the historical search volume trend for that specific keyword. Is it trending upwards over the last year or two? Is it stable? Or is it declining?
Ah, so we want to make sure demand is growing, or at least steady.
Exactly. You want to ride a growing wave, not a shrinking one.
Hmm.
If interest in that specific type of product is fading, even if the current revenue is high, it might not be a good long-term bet. You're looking for momentum, future potential.
Makes sense. Big pie, growing pie. What's the third criterion? You mentioned market homogeneity. What's that about?
Market homogeneity is about looking at the distribution of sales among the sellers on that first page. Is it spread out or is it all concentrated? What you want to see is a healthy mix. You want to see some established sellers with lots of reviews making good sales, sure. But you also want to see some mid-level sellers doing okay. And crucially, you want to see some new sellers, those with very few reviews, maybe under 50 or even under 20 who are also making sales.
Why is seeing new sellers succeed so important?
Because that's your proof of concept. If brand new listings, sellers with hardly any reviews, can still get onto page one and make consistent sales in that market, it tells you that the market is open and accessible to newcomers. It's proof that you, starting with 0 reviews, have a realistic chance to enter and gain traction.
That's the green light.
That's the green light. Conversely, if you look at page one, and it's only dominated by 1 or 2 massive brands with thousands of reviews, and there are absolutely no newer sellers making any significant sales, that's a huge red flag. It suggests the barriers to entry are too high, or the competition is just too entrenched for a new player to break in easily.
So you're looking for a neighborhood where new shops can actually open and survive, not just giant chains.
Perfect analogy. That mix, that homogeneity, tells you the ecosystem is healthy and welcoming for new growth.
Okay, those 3 criteria, total revenue, search growth, and market homogeneity. That feels like a really solid way to validate an opportunity. It's not just about the keyword, it's about the whole competitive landscape.
Exactly. It takes the guesswork out
Yeah.
and replaces it with data-driven analysis of the actual market conditions.
Right. So let's shift to some practical tips then. We found a potentially great niche. What advice do you have for someone starting this journey? Where should they even begin looking for product ideas to make it less, I don't know, overwhelming?
Well, one of the best pieces of advice is to start with your interests. Product research involves digging deep, and it's way more enjoyable and sustainable if you're exploring categories or niches you actually find interesting or know something about.
If you follow your passion a bit.
To some extent, yeah. If you're into fitness, maybe look there. If you love cooking, explore kitchen gadgets. It makes the research feel less like work. And honestly, there are opportunities in almost every category on Amazon, so you can likely find something profitable that aligns with your interests. Your passion can translate into better product understanding and marketing, too.
That's good advice. And you mentioned analyzing new sellers as part of validation. How important is that ongoing?
Oh, incredibly important, especially for setting realistic expectations. When you're looking at that first page, really zeroes in on the performance of sellers with few reviews. How many units are they selling per day or month? What's their bestseller rank, BSR? Can you see their sales trend improving?
Because that's our benchmark.
That's your most realistic benchmark for what you might achieve in the first few months. If sellers with 10 reviews are consistently selling 5 units a day, that gives you a tangible, achievable initial target. It proves it's possible.
Okay, focus on the newbies for immediate goals. What about the big established players then? Just ignore them.
No, definitely don't ignore them. They're a different kind of benchmark. They show you the long-term potential. Look at the sellers with hundreds or thousands of reviews, their sales volume, their market share, how they've maybe expanded their product line. That represents what could be possible after years of consistent effort, building reviews and establishing your brand.
So newbies show the entry point, veterans show the ceiling.
Kind of, yeah. Veterans show the long-term growth potential in that niche. It helps you understand the scale you could reach if you stick with it and execute well over time. Learn from their listings, their branding, their longevity.
Makes sense. And you keep emphasizing specificity in search terms.
Cannot stress that enough. Always prioritize specificity. A term like bathroom towel warmer electric wall mounted is infinitely better than bathroom accessories.
Why is that laser focus so critical?
Because it targets a customer who knows exactly what they want. They're further down the buying funnel. This means higher conversion rates, more clicks turn into sales, and much less wasted ad spend. You're paying to reach people actively looking for your specific solution, not just browsing vaguely. That efficiency is key to profitability, especially with rising ad costs.
Targeted traffic converts better and costs less overall.
Got it. Now, the scary part for many, costs. You mentioned FBA fees, but what else needs to be factored in? It sounds like just knowing the product cost from China isn't nearly enough.
Not even close. This is where so many people stumble. They calculate the product cost, maybe shipping to Amazon, and think they're done, but you absolutely must calculate all the costs before you commit. There are no truly hidden costs if you do your homework.
Okay, break it down for us. Beyond the product itself, what are the big ones? Right. First, import fees. Getting goods from, say, China into your country involves duties, tariffs, customs brokerage fees. These can be a significant percentage of your product cost, sometimes 10, 20, even 25% or more, depending on the product and origin. You need to research this for your specific item.
Okay, import costs. What else?
Then you have the Amazon FBA fees we discussed earlier. Remember those? Fulfillment fees per unit, monthly storage fees per cubic foot, potential long-term storage fees, and the referral fee percentage. You need to know these precisely for your product size and category.
Right, the ongoing Amazon fees.
And then, the one people often underestimate budget-wise, advertising costs, specifically pay-per-click, PPC.
The ads you run on Amazon itself.
Exactly. When you launch, your product has zero visibility. No sales history, no reviews. It won't rank organically. PPC is how you pay to get your product seen by shoppers searching relevant terms. It's essential for driving those initial sales and getting the ball rolling. You need a dedicated, significant budget for PPC right from the start.
It's not optional, basically.
For 99% of new products, no, it's not optional if you want to gain traction reasonably quickly. Skipping or underfunding PPC is one of the fastest ways to fail, because your product just sits there unseen. You need to factor in sourcing, import, FBA fees, and a healthy advertising budget to understand your true profit potential. Skipping any step means you're flying blind financially.
That's a really crucial checklist. Sourcing, import, FBA, ads. Got it. Okay, knowing all that, let's talk about what not to sell, especially when starting out. What product types tend to cause the most headaches or financial losses for new sellers?
Yeah, this is about avoiding common traps. First category to be very wary of: size and weight. Avoid anything big, bulky, or heavy. Think furniture, large sports equipment, things like that.
Why is that? Just shipping costs.
Shipping is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Shipping costs from the manufacturer to Amazon will be high. Then your FBA storage fees will be high because they take up so much space.
Yeah.
And returns, a logistical and financial nightmare. Shipping a sofa back across the country, forget it. The margins just get destroyed by the logistics.
Okay, keep it small and light, especially at first. What else?
Low selling price. We generally advise steering clear of products that sell for less than, say, $18 or $20.
Why the minimum price?
Then because after all the costs we just talked about, sourcing, shipping, import, FBA fees, referral fees, and advertising costs, the profit margin on cheap items becomes razor thin or even negative. You have to sell an enormous volume just to make decent money, and the ad cost per unit can easily wipe out any profit. It's very hard to build a sustainable business on super cheap items.
Right, not enough margin for error or investment. What about product type?
Be very careful with complex electronics. Anything with lots of moving parts, things that need apps to work, items prone to technical issues. Think cheap headphones, some smart home gadgets.
Why are those risky?
Higher chance of malfunctions. That means more customer returns, which costs you money and hurts your seller metrics. It leads to negative reviews, which kills your listing, and potentially even safety concerns, which can get your product or even your account suspended. Simpler is usually better when starting.
Avoid things likely to break or frustrate customers. Makes sense. Any other categories?
Yes, apparel, footwear, and consumables present unique challenges. For clothing and shoes, the main issue is returns due to sizing.
People order multiple sizes.
All the time. They bracket order a size up and a size down, try them on, send back what doesn't fit. Return rates can be incredibly high, like 30–40% or more. Plus, you need a huge initial inventory investment to stock all the different sizes and colors, which ties up a ton of capital.
Okay, so sizing issues and inventory complexity. What about consumables?
Consumables, things like cosmetics, supplements, food items, anything that goes in or on the body are tricky because of regulations and liability. They're often subject to strict rules, require certifications, batch tracking, expiration date management.
A lot of red tape.
A lot. And the liability risk is much higher. If someone has a bad reaction, you could face serious legal issues. It's generally best for beginners to avoid categories with high regulatory hurdles and liability until they have more experience and resources. And related to that are restricted categories. These are categories where Amazon requires explicit approval before you can even list a product. Think medical devices, fine jewelry, automotive parts sometimes.
You need permission first.
Yep. And getting that approval often involves submitting invoices, certifications, business licenses. It could be a lengthy and complex process. New sellers are usually better off starting in categories that don't require gating or pre-approval until they understand the Amazon system better.
Okay, so the theme is start simple, low risk, manageable, and avoid complex regulations or logistics.
That's a great summary. Minimize potential headaches early on.
Right. So we've covered a lot. The terms, the research method, validation, practical tips, what to avoid. Let's wrap up with some final strategic thoughts for long-term success. What's the bigger picture sellers should keep in mind?
Okay, first big one. Longevity is rewarded. Understand that your brand new product, even if it's amazing, won't instantly compete with listings that have been selling well for years and have thousands of reviews.
Set realistic expectations.
Exactly. Amazon's algorithm favors products with a proven track record. They get better visibility, more indexed keywords over time. Your initial goal isn't world domination on day one. It's to get established, get those first sales and reviews, build momentum, and grow steadily. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Patience is key.
Okay, play the long game. What else?
Second, and this sounds odd maybe, but competition is necessary. Don't be scared off by seeing some competitors. A market with zero competition, or only one or two absolute giants and no smaller players making sales. That's often a red flag.
Why is that bad? Wouldn't no competition be good?
Not usually. It could mean there's actually no real demand, or the barriers to entry are secretly massive. A healthy market has competition. It has a mix of players, including newer sellers who are managing to gain traction. That proves there's real ongoing demand, sufficient to support multiple businesses, including yours. Seeing other new-ish sellers succeed is validation.
So healthy competition shows the market is alive and accessible.
Exactly. It's like that ecosystem analogy again. If only the apex predators survive, something's wrong with the environment for everyone else.
Got it. And the last point.
Finally, and we touched on this with costs, but initial investment is non-negotiable. Seriously, don't try to do this on a shoestring budget thinking you only need money for inventory. You need capital for more than just the products.
Remind us of the key areas.
You need funds for international shipping and import fees. You absolutely need funds for professional product photography. Your images are critical. Amateur photos will kill your conversion rate. And crucially, you need that dedicated budget for PPC advertising to get initial visibility and sales. Underestimating these upfront costs is setting yourself up to fail. They are just as vital as the product itself. They're the fuel to get started.
Wow. Okay, that's a powerful set of final insights. Longevity, healthy competition, and sufficient investment. It really paints a picture of what it takes. We have covered so much today. Seriously, from understanding the basic FBA terms, which are clearly more than just words, to the reverse method for finding products people actually want, validating those niches with real data, and then all the practical tips and pitfalls.
It's a lot to take in for sure.
It is. But hopefully breaking it down like this helps cut through that feeling of overwhelm. Having a structured approach gives you, a much better shot at building something successful on Amazon.
Absolutely. Knowledge and a solid plan make all the difference. And maybe something to think about after everything we've discussed. About finding real demand, looking at competition, understanding how people search. Consider this. How does digging into all this change how you think about consumer behavior online in general? Beyond just selling products, what does it reveal about how success happens, how niches form in any crowded digital space today?